Move on to Ceist Inní in Anam and Tánaiste Jack Chambers.
Thanks, Chair. I want to ask the Minister for Justice to provide an update on the new roadside drug testing on motorists, including how many tests have been carried out and how many tests have resulted in positive detection of drugs, how many prosecutions and how many convictions have resulted from roadside drug testing to date, and if she will make a statement on the matter around the practical implementation of what was a welcome bill that was progressed through the House last year. Thank you.
Deputy Chambers for raising this issue. Clearly, we've already had a discussion in the House today about the issue of road safety with Deputy O'Callaghan, and I'm very conscious of the serious issues and the increase in 2016 of road traffic fatalities and the consequences for everyone. We've spoken about that already. I don't have a direct role. Obviously, you're aware of that in the enforcement of road traffic legislation, an operational matter under the legislation. And road traffic legislation is the responsibility of the Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, Mr Shane Ross. I am, however, I've followed up in relation to your question. I am, however, informed that the Department of Transport, Tourism and Sport is working with key stakeholders to introduce the new roadside test for drugs, which will be known as the preliminary drug test. It is intended that the provisions will be commenced at the Easter bank holiday weekend. This will allow for all stakeholders to prepare for introduction and will provide a valuable opportunity to highlight the dangers of drug driving over the bank holiday weekend. Until the 2016 Act is commenced, of course, the Court Service clearly is not in a position to supply any statistics because requested by you, as there is no code for the offence of failing a roadside drug test. So I do look forward, as you do, I'm sure, to the introduction of the preliminary drug tests, and I'm confident that these new road traffic enforcement measures will impact very positively on road safety. It is a shared responsibility for society, various departments, and we all have to work in partnership to make sure that this issue comes to the fore again, that we highlight the dangers, that we educate, as Deputy O'Callaghan and I were discussing earlier, that new generation of young men who are so vulnerable at present, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And we do have, as I said earlier, the meetings between the Minister for Transport and myself and Department officials and the Road Safety Authority on a very regular basis to highlight the work. I think you'll agree with me that the campaign recently over Christmas and the very brave family who came forward in relation to alcohol and driving, it was a very effective campaign. But it will be interesting to see how public attitudes will change as the new drugs legislation is introduced. But I have given you the details of the commencement, and there's obviously going to be cooperation with all the stakeholders.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, Minister, and I welcome the fact that the bill is being commenced at the Easter break, which is a time where I think people engage in different types of behaviour sometimes excessively. But what we've seen previously, if you look at some of the coroner statistics, I know there was a study done by the coroner from Kildare, and in 2014 over 1,300 samples from drivers were analysed for drugs, and 58% tested positive, 52% were positive for 2 or more drugs. So we've seen a growth in polydrug use that's beyond this Act in terms of the drug-related issues. But the fact that our roadside testing was not intervening on that basis, and a lot of the traffic incidents were contributed by drug-related behaviour, I think it's important and positive that the Road Safety Authority and yourself in the Department and the Department of Transport are commencing this at an appropriate time of the year. I think it's important that the Road Safety Authority ratchets up its own campaign to make people aware that this is being commenced, because I think it will have a very positive effect to try and deter people from engaging in behaviour that's reckless on the road, and the fact that they be consuming drugs at a time when they're about to go into the car is very dangerous. So I welcome the new piece of information, and I hope it reduces the rising road-related fatalities.
I'd also want to put on the record, Deputy, that it has been announced by Garda Síochána that there would be a 10% increase in the traffic corps during the course of 2017, so that should help greatly with enforcement as well. And at that meeting I referred to, Garda Síochána informed the meeting that it was intended, and I think this is very important, given that we are recruiting so many new Gardaí, that there's going to be a stronger focus on road traffic enforcement in the training provided to new recruits at Templemore. There's the other point, of course, as well, in relation to the review of the Section 29 of the Road Traffic Act, with the intention of ensuring that all drivers, if caught while drink driving, will in future receive a mandatory disqualification, and I hope that your party will support that when it's introduced into this House.
And we'll move on to question number 10.